Welcome to our Immigration Briefing show. Today, we have some intriguing stories lined up for you. First off, the Australian government has cancelled the visas of at least 20 convicted criminals born overseas, as part of a major effort to tighten immigration rules following the Direction 99 scandal. Next, two Texas border city mayors are heading to the White House for an immigration announcement where President Biden is expected to unveil an executive order that could limit asylum seekers based on daily thresholds. Lastly, the Canada Border Services Agency has imposed new limitations on the practice of flagpoling at 12 U.S.-Canada border crossings to improve efficiency during peak travel times. Please stay tuned for the full details. Australian Broadcasting Corporation. The Australian government has recently cancelled the visas of at least 20 convicted criminals who were born overseas. This move comes as Minister Andrew Giles finalises stricter immigration rules following the Direction 99 controversy. The visa cancellations are part of a broader effort to tighten immigration controls and address public concerns regarding safety and security. The Senate estimates continue to scrutinize government actions, providing ongoing updates on the situation. Associated Press. In McAllen, Texas, border mayors are preparing to head to Washington, D.C., for a significant immigration announcement from President Joe Biden. The executive order, expected to be Biden's most assertive measure yet, aims to limit the number of asylum seekers entering the U.S. Brownsville Mayor John Cowan and Edinburgh Mayor Ramiro Garza have confirmed their attendance, while the mayor of Eagle Pass has not received an invitation. The order could automatically deny asylum to migrants once daily encounters surpass a new threshold, despite a recent decline in border crossings. This measure is seen as a preemptive step to manage potential increases in migration as elections approach, highlighting the ongoing political battle over immigration policy. CBC. The practice of flagpoling, where non-Canadians temporarily leave and re-enter Canada to expedite immigration services, is now facing new restrictions at 12 U.S.-Canada border crossings. The Canada Border Services Agency, CBSA, has limited the days and hours for flagpoling to enhance efficiency and focus on other priorities. This change aims to reduce resource strain and wait times at the border. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has criticized the practice, arguing it negatively impacts the economy by increasing border traffic. Despite the risks associated with flagpoling, such as potential deportation if paperwork is incorrect, some find it necessary for immediate work or study permits. The limitations on flagpoling hours are expected to shift demand rather than reduce it, as the need for expedited immigration services persists. Telegraph. Sir Keir Starmer's recent promise to cut immigration, prefaced with the phrase "read my lips," has been met with skepticism, drawing parallels to past political pledges that were never fulfilled. Starmer's history and actions suggest a lack of genuine commitment to controlling immigration. He has previously criticized immigration laws as inherently racist and shown support for policies that increase benefits for asylum seekers and oppose restrictions on immigration. For instance, Starmer once signed a letter demanding the suspension of deportation flights for foreign criminals, resulting in some being allowed to stay in the UK, where they later committed serious offences. This inconsistency in his stance on immigration reflects a broader pattern of dishonesty in his leadership. Starmer has often shifted his positions, such as changing his stance on abolishing the House of Lords and adjusting the cost of his energy policy. His leadership style seems to prioritize political convenience over honesty, taking cues from past politicians who have succeeded through shamelessness rather than integrity. Telegraph. The Black Country Living Museum in the West Midlands has expanded its historical coverage to include the Windrush generation, reflecting a commitment to diversity and more accurately representing modern British history. Traditionally focused on the period from 1700 to 1941, the museum now spans up to 1968, showcasing the stories of immigrants and the racism they faced. New buildings and characters, such as Fitzroy Barrett, an NHS midwife named Cicely Miller, and Mr. Singh, a Punjabi market stall owner, have been introduced to portray the experiences of diverse communities. This initiative, part of a project called Forging Ahead, aims to make the museum more relevant to contemporary visitors and highlight the contributions of immigrants to British society. The museum's chief executive, Andrew Lovett, emphasized the importance of telling the whole story of the region, which is one of the most culturally and ethnically diverse in the country. This move aligns with broader efforts by UK museums to decolonize and diversify their narratives, ensuring a more inclusive representation of history. Guardian. British social care agencies have been accused of exploiting foreign workers, leaving many migrants in precarious financial situations. Workers from countries like India have reported paying thousands of pounds to agents for jobs in UK care homes, only to find limited or no employment upon arrival. These workers often end up in irregular jobs, earning below the minimum wage while struggling to repay debts incurred to secure their visas. The Royal College of Nursing has called for a government inquiry into the treatment of migrant care workers, highlighting a lack of regulation and enforcement that allows such exploitation. David Neal, a former government borders inspector, compared the situation to the Windrush scandal, noting the state's failure to protect these workers. Legal experts suggest that care providers may be breaking the law by offering misleading job promises. The Home Office has suspended or cancelled licenses for some care providers but acknowledges the need for stricter oversight. Many affected workers remain in the UK, working in low-wage jobs to survive, with some facing threats from immigration agents if they speak out. Telegraph: with summer holidays approaching, preparation is key to avoid stress and unnecessary expenses. Firstly, double-check passports, especially for EU travel, as new rules post-Brexit require strict adherence to passport issue dates and validity. Vaccinations for long-haul travel should be arranged well in advance. House and pet sitters need to be booked early, and travel insurance should be secured immediately. Car hire is cheaper when booked early, and additional insurance for excess charges is advisable. Ensure your car insurance covers international travel if driving abroad. Airport parking and hotels are more affordable when pre-booked, and the Global Health Insurance Card, GHIC, is essential for medical emergencies in the EU. Lastly, check roaming rates for mobile phones and book restaurants and events in advance to avoid disappointment. Yahoo US: the Oklahoma legislature's recent session saw significant bills passed, including the repeal of the grocery tax, which will save consumers money starting in late August. However, a controversial anti-immigration law has raised concerns and faces legal challenges. The law, effective July 1, imposes fines, jail, and deportation for undocumented individuals, aimed at curbing illegal marijuana grow operations but criticized for vague language and enforcement issues. Another notable bill, the Oklahoma Survivors Act, aids domestic violence victims who defended themselves by allowing courts to consider domestic violence as a mitigating factor in sentencing. New high school graduation standards were also introduced to better prepare students for post-secondary paths, increasing math requirements and adding flexible pathway credits. Additionally, a Teacher Empowerment Fund was established to provide raises for select teachers, and a fix was made to ensure private school tax credits are fully applied to tuition. Telegraph: as Britain leans leftward with the potential election of a Labour government, Europe is experiencing a right-wing surge in the upcoming European elections. This shift is largely a reaction to Brexit and ongoing issues like border anxiety, mass migration, and war. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, faces challenges from right-wing parties, notably Italy's Giorgia Meloni's ECR group, which could reshape the ruling coalition. This political shift may lead to stricter border controls and changes in immigration policies. The war in Ukraine remains a critical issue, with some nationalist parties showing a pro-Moscow stance, though a significant shift in EU support for Ukraine is unlikely. Nationalist parties like Germany's AfD and France's National Rally are gaining ground, reflecting a broader European trend towards conservatism, contrasting sharply with the UK's leftward tilt under potential PM Keir Starmer. The Sydney Morning Herald reports that the federal government has urgently cancelled the visas of child sex offenders, drug dealers, and violent criminals in a bid to overturn tribunal rulings that allowed them to stay in Australia. Immigration Minister Andrew Giles has signed over 20 cancellations, responding to coalition criticism of a federal rule that tolerates foreign-born criminals with strong community ties. The government plans to overhaul this regime by eliminating Ministerial Direction 99, emphasizing community safety over ties to Australia. Despite anticipated backlash from New Zealand, where more deported criminals would be sent, ministers aim to remove lenient provisions towards convicted felons. The Administrative Appeals Tribunal has recently restored visas for offenders, citing their ties to Australia and family reasons, but the government can overturn these decisions, pushing applicants to appeal in federal court. Both Labour and coalition parties have shown some leniency in the past, but the new rule intends to prioritise the protection of the Australian community. The Telegraph highlights Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer's pledge to reduce immigration numbers, promising voters, "Read my lips, I will bring immigration numbers down." Starmer's new plans aim to curb net migration by banning employers who break employment laws from hiring foreign workers and ensuring sectors applying for foreign worker visas train British people first. He criticised the Conservative government's failure to manage rising immigration, which reached 685,000 last year, and committed to controlling borders and prioritising British hires. Starmer emphasised that this is a reformed Labour Party focused on serving working people and addressing high migration. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has promised to fund additional GP appointments by reducing NHS managers, expanding services at high street pharmacies to free up doctors' time, particularly for women's health services. The Independent also covers Keir Starmer's promise to lower immigration from its current sky-high levels if Labour wins the election. He criticized the Conservative governments for their failure to reduce immigration numbers, which hit 685,000 last year, and vowed to control borders and support British businesses in hiring locals first. Starmer's plan, part of Labour's election manifesto, includes new laws to ban employers who break employment laws from hiring foreign workers and linking the immigration system to training Britons for jobs. Despite the risk of backlash within his own party, Starmer insisted on the necessity of reducing immigration numbers and criticized employers' over-reliance on overseas workers. He stated that this strategy would also help lower the benefits bill and highlighted the Conservatives' lack of a coherent strategy to manage immigration. The Sydney Morning Herald reports on the political turmoil surrounding the release of former immigration detainees in Australia. Following a landmark High Court decision that deemed indefinite immigration detention unlawful, nearly a fifth of approximately 150 detainees were freed, some of whom committed crimes post-release. This has led to a political blame game, with Labour imposing curfews and electronic monitoring to address community safety concerns, while facing criticism from both the opposition and legal experts. Immigration Minister Andrew Giles is under fire for his directive that considered detainees' ties to Australia, a move aimed at improving relations with New Zealand. However, the directive's perceived leniency has led to calls for his resignation. The situation has intensified political discourse, with the opposition using each new crime committed by a former detainee to criticize the government, creating an increasingly polarized environment. The Independent details the struggles faced by passengers due to misinterpretation of post-Brexit passport validity rules by airlines, notably EasyJet. Simon Calder recounts his efforts to clarify the rules with EU officials and inform airlines, only to see EasyJet and Ryanair apply incorrect conditions. A case in point is Jackie McGuff, who was wrongly denied boarding for a flight to Naples despite having a valid passport. Despite her appeals and EasyJet's initial refusal to admit fault, the airline eventually acknowledged the mistake after Calder's intervention. This incident highlights the need for better internal procedures and responsiveness to customer concerns. Calder emphasizes that while EasyJet offers good value and a professional operation, its handling of such issues undermines customer trust and reflects poorly on its commitment to service. Yahoo US covers the Democratic National Committee's (DNC) campaign to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. The campaign aims to raise awareness about the ongoing barriers Native Americans face in exercising their voting rights. The DNC is launching ads in key states and distributing voter protection guides in 7 native languages. DNC Chair Jamie Harrison and Native Caucus Chair Clara Pratt emphasize the importance of these efforts in ensuring Native communities can participate fully in the upcoming elections. The campaign builds on President Biden's executive order to improve election-related information and engagement for Native communities, highlighting the administration's commitment to addressing the systemic challenges faced by Indigenous voters. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.